with Stephanie Marie-Louise.
Hi.
Your knowledge about what's going on with agrotoxins is out there. I mean, you're very highly educated on what's going on and a writer about the topics as well.
Yes, I'm something of an activist. I've been studying Monsanto. I've been following the laws that have been passed allowing more genetically modified crops and the toxins that were actually developed alongside of them in order to be sold for 3 years now.
And one of the things that got me motivated was looking at the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico. I realized that was becoming from too much what I call agrotoxins, too much fertilizer, too much weed killer drifting down the Mississippi. And when I looked at what Congress had done in the last 10 years, they've passed more laws to allow more fertilizer use that comes down to agrotoxins in our water, whether it's New Orleans, Baton Rouge, or further upriver. We're all drinking. Now, fill me in. You talk to us about what the technical words are here.
The primary ingredient in your Roundup is a chemical called glyphosate, which was recently declared by the World Health Organization to be a Category 2A carcinogen. It's causing tumors in lab animals, and there is evidence that it's causing cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, in humans and farmers who apply this product.
Now, we've often heard that this part of the river from New Orleans to Baton Rouge is called Cancer Alley.
Yes.
And Louisiana actually has the highest cancer mortality rate in the country based on this river.
We have to protect our people here in Louisiana. The Mississippi River drains the agricultural lands of 41 states and 2 Canadian provinces. Everything that is put on land upriver goes into the river, comes down here, and it becomes our drinking water. We are paying the price, and there's no mitigation, and there is no compensation, and there's no real effort to protect us.
There's a lot of articles where Lake Erie got very aggressive with this because they had to stop the drinking water.
Right, and it's not only affecting humans, it's affecting the aquatic life as well. It's making frogs into hermaphrodites, it's killing off life, and that's going to affect our fishing industry as well as our health.
We've all lost loved ones from cancer, and it's really time to put an end to what's going on with letting these chemical companies pollute our waters, our drinking water. I mean, it's not a joke, and we're going to get that done.
I'm Robin Krohn-David, Executive Director of the Maritime and Seafood Industry Museum here in Biloxi. In November, December, Thanksgiving, Christmas, everyone loves to go purchase a sack of oysters and open them and have them. It doesn't necessarily just have to be on those particular days. It's like all month long, every day of the week, we could eat oysters down here. Usually it's just rain. I mean, an abundance of heavy rain is what we're accustomed to, but the algae bloom, this is very unusual. I have never seen a red tide in December. As of yesterday, I think the beaches were closed down as well as the oyster reefs, and I don't know that DMR has said when the oyster reefs will reopen again because of this algae bloom. Now there's dead fish along the beach, and they're telling people not to, eat any of the fish that are being caught right now.
Today we're down in Cocodrie with Dr. Nancy Rabalais. Dr. Rabalais is well known around the world for her work on hypoxia and dead zones.
Well, we're at LUMCON, the Louisiana Universities Marine Consortium. This is the Marine Center for LUMCON, and all of the state, public, and private universities are members of the consortium, and we provide facilities and services for people to come and do research, to have summer courses, to do educational activities. I saw LUMCON when it was just dirt. I saw the pilings go in, I saw the building go up, and then 3 years after I came here, came in 1983, and 1986 we moved into the building, and there were 2 scientists and lots of space, and now there are more scientists and not as much space, which is very good because that means we've been growing and doing more things in serving science in general and science needs for the state of Louisiana. So we know the nitrate load in the Mississippi River has gone up since the 1950s. It's sort of stabilized now. We also know that the size of the low oxygen has gone up over that same time. The source of that nitrogen comes primarily from agricultural practices. Over 50% of the basin is in agriculture, and the increase in growing of just corn, especially for ethanol production, has required more fertilizer. Now that the price of fuel oil is so low, the farmers are not getting as much per bushel for their corn, and they may be or should be seeking alternative agricultural practices. Being one of the bigger dead zones in the world is not necessarily something that I take pride in. But of the over 550 in the world, the one in the Gulf of Mexico is the second largest, what we call human-caused dead zone. The largest one is in the Baltic Sea. And we say human-caused because there are some areas in the open ocean that also have low oxygen, but it's very different and it's not caused by human activity. The area of low oxygen is at most 20,000 square kilometers, or about 12,500 square miles. And the largest has been the size of the state of Massachusetts. The average has been the size of the state of New Jersey. It extends all the way from the Mississippi River Delta west as far south as Galveston or Freeport, Texas, and at times it extends to the east as far as Mobile Bay. Anything that needs oxygen has to escape, or things that live in the sediments die. So the swimmable fish and the shrimp and blue crabs, they can move out of the area. But it basically reduces their suitable habitat, so they don't have the right kind of food that they need, the right kind of temperature and salinity. They get pushed inshore, where they get caught better by human being predators with trawls. The harmful algal bloom that we had is called a red tide, and it gets into fish. It's a toxin, it kills them. And it also gets into the oysters because the oysters filter the water to get their food, and in that process they bring in the toxins. We knew that there was a problem because we had been called by Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality and Human Health and Resources to do samples to see if the red tide was in the samples, because there was a red tide that moved from the Florida Panhandle into Alabama, Mississippi, and into Louisiana east of the Mississippi River. This particular algal bloom was toxic. It generated toxins that can kill organisms, including fish. There were fish kills. The toxins can also be incorporated into oysters through their filter feeding of the water. So the Louisiana fishery was shut down for a period of time. So we were not able to harvest oysters east of the Mississippi River during peak oystering season this last winter because they were full of toxins. And even after the harmful algal bloom goes away, the toxins are still in the oyster tissue. So it's something that you need to keep your eye out for. We don't want to get sick people. Red tides or harmful algal blooms can be toxic, or they can just be what I call noxious. They can get into the gills of fish and prevent them from breathing well, or they can have a toxin which would kill them. Some of them have always been around. There are more harmful algal blooms now than there were in the past, just like the low oxygen areas, and that's related to excess nutrient runoff. So some of them are being aggravated. Some of them are more common now than they were in the past, and they're toxic. We have a toxin in a type of phytoplankton called the diatom that is very common in our coastal waters when the Mississippi River is delivering a lot of nutrients, especially nitrogen. And this particular one causes amnesic shellfish poisoning. It's not an age thing. It's actually affecting your neurons, and it causes permanent short-term memory loss, or can it even kill you if it gets into the oysters. There's a lot of die-offs of birds and seals in California because of this. Alfred Hitchcock's movie, The Birds, the idea behind those birds starting to attack and go crazy is that they had ingested fish that had consumed these little diatoms that had the toxin in them that causes amnesic shellfish poisoning. And then also marine mammals, otters, seals, walruses, they can also get the toxins in them, and often there are deaths as a result. Causes and consequences of coastal hypoxia. We drew together experts from all around the US and the world. We had international people involved who wrote individual chapters on different parts of the food web. We came up with this book, so it covers everything from the phytoplankton all the way to the fish. And it's a really good resource. If you just Google Gulf hypoxia, you can find our website, and you can also find much more up-to-date information about what we've been doing since then. The states on the river have nutrient reduction plans where they are supposed to list the steps that can be taken to reduce the nutrient load. The new goal that's 25 years off has an intermediate goal at 10 years to try to reach a 20% reduction. So some of those reduction plans are aimed at certain practices that can be done. It just takes social and political will to make it happen.
Thank you for the awesome wildlife effort that's being made down here.
I'm so glad to help you and the citizens of the state.